Oh my goodness. The finale is finally here. The season has gone by so quickly, I cannot believe it. Okay, I stayed up to watch when it came out at midnight, which is kind of stupid because this episode was like a horror movie. I was so scared and then so sad and didn't end up going to bed until 2 a.m. Did anyone else watch at midnight? I feel like with this show, you just can't. You cannot watch this before bed. But I am doing a rewatch now to discuss with you, and I cannot wait. And first, I want to say thank you again to everyone interacting and leaving kind comments on these videos. It truly means so much to me, and this has been so fun that I definitely want to keep making more videos, so let me know what you want to see. I didn't record for episodes 3 and 4, so should I go back and discuss? Should I do a video discussing the book and maybe how it compares to the show? That could be interesting. Let me know. First of all, I was shocked how many theories were correct. I almost feel like next season I don't want to read too many theories ahead of time because every reveal this episode I was like, oh my gosh, we discussed that. Like, someone has guessed that. I think it was a good finale. It made me sad, but we definitely got a lot of action and progression. With this show, I think what makes it good is that it makes you feel something, even if that thing is making you want to pull all your hair out. Like, does anyone else just feel so connected to these characters? I was watching a TikTok, I believe, that said the writing and character development is so good because each character's actions are motivated by a core wound that then guides their behaviors, which I think gives them so much depth and authenticity and relatability. But yeah, every single reveal, I was like, no way. I remember thinking about this and discussing it. Let's talk about this episode. Okay, the way we open, I don't know what I expected, but I did not expect to be back at the pool scene in 2015. If you don't recall, this is from 2 episodes, I want to say, where we're at Bree's wedding weekend and Lucy tricks Steven into coming down towards the pool thinking that he's gonna talk to her or whatever, but actually she's with Max and Steven just gets to watch as they're in the pool together. That scene was jarring in the first place, so to have it again as the opening scene in the finale, I was like, okay, let's get this finale started, all right. But this time around, we get a little bit more of what happens. So Lucy and Max finish doing their thing, and when Lucy opens her eyes again, she sees Steven's glass that he was drinking from is just on the table, and there's no Steven to be found. And Lucy looks upset. Like, damn, girl, what did you want to happen? She wanted him to stay and keep watching the whole time, and like, what was going to happen after? Again, you can just see how she is still twisted and her mind is still polluted with him. Because poor Max, this was not about him, this was totally about Steven. But then Max gets out of the pool and he's putting on a towel and he sees Lucy's phone light up with a text message from Steven and it says, "Thanks for the show." Max unlocks her phone. He knows her password, which I rewatched this scene so many times that I could figure out what it was to see if it had any special meaning. I think her password was 5521. I really want to figure out if this means anything at all, because I feel like the writers are so smart and it would mean something. But I don't know. Can you think of anything? I believe Lucy in the book is a Gemini and might have a May birthday, but the passcode ends in 21, so that wouldn't be the year, obviously. So I'm not sure. Let me know if you have any thoughts. But Max opens the phone, so he sees the text from before where they're planning to meet up and confronts Lucy, rightfully so. Lucy tries to say it was a joke, it's not, like, serious. But Max, again, rightfully so, is like, what is wrong with you? And Lucy says, I don't know what's wrong with me. And it just feels like the breakup with Leo all over again. This is the same thing that happens. She's in Steven's web and she finds someone good, but then she comes right back to him and it blows everything up. Ooh, and then says, I bet you think you're still a victim. That hurts. I mean, what Lucy does here is awful. And, you know, yes, she was hurt by Steven, but now she is hurting Max as well. She is hurting these other people in the process. And she was the victim at first, but this has just spiraled out of control. This is, oh my gosh, this whole scene that she orchestrates is crazy. It's painful. I mean, seeing Lucy do this over and over again when it just hurts her in the end and everyone around her, it's It's so hard to watch. Okay, now it seems like maybe it's the day of the wedding. All the girls are in this room, including Bree, in their little, like, getting ready bridesmaid robes. And another thing that people were able to match up is that we got a still of Lucy in this robe, and she is also wearing the robe in the season 2 trailer where she, spoiler alert to the next 5 minutes, kisses Steven. She's in this robe when she kisses Steven, so again, I was thinking this is coming. We see Bree get a call from a private number, which she promptly declines. And we discussed this before, that we think it's probably Oliver. But the writer Megan Oppenheimer has done a few interviews that have now debunked that. This interviewer in the Variety article, which I can link below, asks that it seems like it could be Oliver or maybe Steven. But the writer says, I can't say, but it's not Steven and it's not Oliver. So who the heck is it? Then in the Vanity Fair article, she spoke on it again and she said that was a thing that wasn't in the script originally. And I added it because we realized Bri had been through so much and like she's not going to be stable in 2015. So they added something else in. I don't know what that could be. I guess it is something separate from the characters and storyline of this season. And maybe it's something that we'll just have to wait to hear more about. But that was strange. I was like, why are they adding this storyline with nothing to show for it at this point? Okay, and then the girls are talking. We're back. Bree says to Pippa, I'll throw the bouquet at you. And then she's like, oh wait, no, I'll throw it at Diana. And then Pippa's like, as long as Lucy doesn't throw it at Diana. And Lucy says, right, that strong arm of mine. And I'm like, is this a callback to slap shots 5 years ago or longer, further back than that? Is that a callback to when she slapped her at the Thanksgiving house party? Oh my gosh. Ugh, and then Lucy gets a text from Steven that says, need to see you. And yeah, it's the same pattern like what happened with Leo. She's in a good relationship and then ruins it with Steven. And then of course she's ready to take Steven back because now she has no one. She's in her room pacing around and then there's a knock at the door. She opens the door and it is Steven. And okay, again, credits to the music supervisor. Fitz Pleasure by Alt J starts playing and the like drop is timed perfectly with the moment the door shuts and they kiss. So like I felt all of that. Honestly, this season had a really good tension building up between Lucy and Steven. So like this finale kiss had a really good payoff, I thought. This was not satisfying, but it was like, wow, we have been fighting all season and now we see this happening. They hook up. And oh my gosh, it didn't hit me until like 30 seconds in. He is fully engaged to Lydia. It isn't just Lucy here. Steven is engaged to Lydia. He is now cheating on Lydia with Lucy. But Lucy says, you haven't changed at all. And Steven's like, neither have you. And I'm not going to go into detail, but it's like the old days. Like this is, they are crazy. They are very intense. It is intense. Oh my goodness. These first 5 minutes are giving us so much. Okay, after the title card, we're in bed, Steven and Lucy, and Lucy looks so regretful and so anxious. And I'm like, oh my gosh, she is regretting this right away. But then it takes a second. The screen says December 2008, meaning, no, this isn't where we were just now. This is where we were at the end of last episode. Remember when Steven came over and was like, oh, you loved me, even the worst parts of me, and then Lucy closed the door behind her? Yeah. And Steven says, I missed you. And it's just shows how this cycle repeats over and over since it's so reflective of what's happening 7 years later. It's like the exact same thing. I thought it was in the present timeline. Lucy turns over and looks at him and asks, why? And Steven just says, we fit. Lucy looks like she's going to throw up. And she's like, I have an exam in an hour. And man, have the tables turned because I don't think Steven even wants to leave right now. He says, oh yeah, I should get some work done. And he says, I'll call you in a bit. And Lucy doesn't even seem excited by that at all. Like like looking at her, like you could feel the nausea, the anxiety, the guilt. he gives her this kiss, and Steven thinks they're in love and they're right back to where they were. Because obviously he's crazy. Like, you are not right back to where you were. You've done all of this awful stuff. But he sees Lucy as vulnerable and kind of weak, and he thinks that, oh, just saying I love you and saying that speech is going to make her fall right back into his arms. But Lucy looks so unwell. I mean, her face here, you could feel it. As soon as Steven leaves and the door shuts behind him, she lets out this little gasp of air, and she gets up and she starts pacing. This was such a good part to me. Lucy frantically strips her bed. She's taking off the comforter, the sheets, and it's like she just wants to get every inch of Steven out of there. You can feel how it's like he somehow got his way back into her room and he's infected it. He's infectious. The regret is instant. And she looks for comfort. She calls Pippa. She doesn't pick up. She calls Bree and she doesn't pick up. And it feels like she has no one. I don't know if anyone else noticed this. I thought it was weird. I was like, why does this girl have her long sleeve top on and just her underwear? But this comes up later because notice what she's wearing. The underwear are like red with white lace, kind of festive. This comes up later in the episode. We will discuss. She gets dressed, and then we cut to Bree. We're back in the classroom where she has just seen MaryAnn wearing her earrings, and Bree is freaking out. She's like scratching her neck. She's like breathing heavily. Bree immediately leaves the class and calls Oliver. Also notice her favorites are Oliver, then Lucy and Pippa, of course, and Evan. Evan is still on there. So Bree is like, we need to talk. MaryAnn was wearing my earrings, and Oliver's like, meet me at the condo. We need to talk. So we're going to learn what happens here. Lucy is on the verge of a breakdown. She's walking in the hallway and she knocks on a door. It's Leo's door. He opens up. Leo, being the nice guy he is, lets her in. And they talk, and Lucy comes clean and says, you were actually like one of the best things that's happened to me. She says she was so much happier with him. She was better with him, and is pleading. She says, I know I can be different. And she says she knows what she wants. She has so much clarity right now. She really got that post-clarity. I'm happy for Lucy here because I think it does show growth that she's feeling disgust after seeing Steven again. She is showing this effort to not fall back into that cycle. Also, I guess she didn't show up for class, to MaryAnn's class. She just did not go at all. I don't know what's going on with that. But either way, then she says, I love you. And he says it back. And I was so touched because I feel like this relationship has so much potential. They start kissing, and it is so sweet. But then they're down on Leo's bed, and he initiates a hookup, and Lucy pulls back a bit, but then is like, no, it's okay. I don't know what's going on with Lucy here. Leo asks for consent again, and she's like, yes, I want to do this, I really do. And they start hooking up, and there's this point where we see a close-up of her face just over his shoulder. And she's kind of in her own world. What is she thinking here? Is she regretting? Is she saying, what the hell am I doing? It's literally like, the second guy I'm seeing, and it's what? Still not even 10 a.m. yet? Like, literally, what time is it? She looks terrified in a way, but also comforted and relaxed and reassured with Leo. How did you interpret this scene? There was so much happening with her expressions. It was interesting. Then we're with Pippa and Wrigley. Wrigley's asleep. Pippa's just like sitting there. She gets a text and says to Wrigley, I'm just gonna pop downstairs really quickly. And he's so cute. He's like, that's his yes. That's his got it. He just grunts. He's half asleep. She goes outside and meets up with Diana. They sit on a bench and they talk about how Wrigley's doing. Diana gets a text and says, he'll be here soon. I was like, who's gonna be here soon that we're both talking about here? What? Then Diana brings up what happened last night with Lucy lying about Chris, saying it happened to her. And Diana's like, are we just gonna ignore this, or are we gonna talk about this? And Pippa speaks some truth. First, she says, look, I know you don't like her. And Diana's like, this isn't about liking her, which that is so not true. We see how Diana treats other women in comparison to Lucy. Pippa calls out Diana for being hypocritical on excusing messed up behavior because she's dating Steven. She literally calls Steven a psychopath. And then Diana's like, oh, we shouldn't talk about our relationships. Like, we don't actually know each other that well. And then Diana's like, yeah, I didn't even know you're sleeping with Wrigley again. This girl is jealous. Why is she so why are you bringing that up, Diana? You're jealous. You didn't like to see that. Even Pippa pauses for a moment and looks around. It is the funniest look. And she's like, why do you care? Diana shoots back and says, oh, maybe I just don't understand all this stuff. As you said it yourself, I'm not a girl's girl. Which, yes, that's how I would describe it. But I was thinking to myself, I was like, were we using that term in 2008? It doesn't really matter because it makes sense to the conversation and situation, like we understand. But I was like, that term feels super recent. And Pippa fires back. She says, at least Lucy cares. Like, you're with this guy who you know is bad and you're with him anyway. True. Oh, and Diana can get vicious. She says maybe Lucy wouldn't have had to tell her idiotic lie if you had been truthful in the first place. Like, again, so victim blaming. But Diana immediately snaps out of it and was like, oh my god, sorry. And Pippa says, this is no one else's business but mine. Like, you keep butting in. And I mean, that's very valid to her feelings. She wants to deal with this in her own way, and you can't criticize her for that. Diana gets a text and says he just got here. They don't resolve this conversation. Pippa just storms off, and that doesn't end well. Diana walks to meet this person, and guess who comes out of the car? It's Drew. Oh, I wanted to cry. I was so scared he was not alive or something this whole season. Oh my gosh, seeing him in like that long curly hair he grew out, I was like, oh, I want the best for him. I feel so bad for him. Drew shows up at Wrigley's dorm, and it's kind of awkward. They don't even hug right away or anything. First of all, I was wondering why Diana was picking him up, but then we learned that she called him to come over and said that Wrigley was in pretty bad shape. Drew doesn't really want to be there. He says Diana wouldn't take no for an answer, and I'm guessing Pippa told Diana about what was going on, and I guess Diana helped. They love each other. But anyway, it's very awkward. It's strange. They talk about it right away. Wrigley says, I feel so bad. I don't want you to hate me anymore. And Drew's like, last year was so awkward for me, and you made it that way. Shots are being fired. Drew's mad about Wrigley telling Pippa, again, thinking that Pippa wrote the letter. And Wrigley starts breaking down again. Drew is taken aback. He didn't think Wrigley cared this much. And Wrigley's like, what are you talking about? I called you 50 times. And Drew says, yeah, and you left all these silly voicemails, like joking. And Wrigley's like, yeah, you wanted me to be serious in a voicemail? It's classic Wrigley. They have this heart-to-heart, and they start calling each other dude again, and it's like, it's so sweet and special. And oh my gosh, this was solved with a single conversation. Like, this could have happened and saved so much sadness and upset. But this was so happy to see. Only thing is, I'm like, I love Wrigley and I want to see him happy. But you know the writers are not going to do that. So I am getting so nervous at this point. Like, what is going to go wrong? What is going to go wrong? And also, bringing up the letter again, I was thinking, is the Lucy letter gonna come out tonight? Are we gonna get a resolution on that in this finale? That would be crazy. I have it written down in my notes. That's what I was thinking at this moment in time. Drew and Wrigley decide that they're gonna go out together tonight. Now we cut to Oliver and Bree. They're in that condo that he's been house sitting for. I don't even know. I don't believe that. I'm still like, how long has this person been away? Anyway, that's besides the point. We learn right away, like 5 seconds in, that Oliver did indeed have to say that those earrings were a gift from MaryAnn because MaryAnn found them in his pants. This is something we discussed last week. It was right. Oliver's questioning why Bree left the earrings for MaryAnn to find them. And we hear a lot from Bree about, I think, what we knew. Firstly, that she left the earrings so MaryAnn could make the decision for herself, that decision being leaving Oliver. And Bree talks about how she wants more from him. She wants more than just the secret affair, which we all saw coming from episode 2 when he was like, are you sure you can do this? Like, I'm not going to leave my wife. And she said, oh, yeah, I think I can do it. Mm-mm. And after talking, they break up. Oliver ends it pretty much. I saw this coming. This obviously was not going to last. But I do feel bad for Bree because she's back in this situation, in this place where she feels so alone and like she has no one. Oliver gets Bree's house key from her purse, and there's this moment where he takes out a box of cigarettes and he kind of gives her this look. I wonder if that's him realizing, oh, this was just something fun for me, but this actually had an effect on her, and a screwed up one at that. And Oliver says, you can stay here as long as you want, but when you leave, you won't be able to get back in. And that's just a metaphor for this relationship. It's very dramatic and serious for however short this affair was. Back to Lucy and Leo in bed. Lucy's phone starts vibrating and she's like, I'll get it later. It's definitely Steven. I am scared for Lucy at this point because all I can think of is how pissed Steven's gonna be that he chose Lucy, but she didn't choose him back. He put himself on the line and was vulnerable and is now gonna get rejected. Like, as a narcissist, he's gonna be really mad about that. We see that it is Steven who has been calling, and at the same time, Leo goes in the shower and he's like, oh, we should go to this party later. Lucy says, oh, I think it'll be a bit crowded. Clearly, she does not want to go to this party. Maybe she is scared at this point, like, how am I going to tell Steven that I don't want to be with him and I'm going to be with Leo again? Steven keeps calling and she says, okay, we'll go to this party, but first I'm going to go home and freshen up a bit. Also, the writer did talk about this morning, how she was with Steven and then with Leo. She says she's desperate. She doesn't want to hurt his feelings or say no to him, but she's thinking, I was just with Steven an hour ago. And then writes, we kept doing that scene to get to a place where we were sure she wasn't grossed out by Leo, but by herself. We used the last take. It plays like a horror movie. And that is so true. So going back to what I was saying, those faces she's making, it's not the disgust with him. It's with herself and what she's doing in that moment. Wow. Really interesting. The theories at this point are going to be like, Lucy gets pregnant and tells Leo it's his, but it's actually Steven's. Season 3 theories. Let's go. Let's get crazy. No, I don't support that. Okay, now we're in Diana's dorm and Steven's already there packing up. Woo! Steve and Diana break up. Let's go. We've been waiting for this all season. Steven's like, we need to talk. And he holds out both his hands and he holds hers and they sit down together while still holding hands. And it's like, he is putting on such a show. This is so what would happen in season 1 every time he would apologize, and is reminiscent of the book. Steven does his whole spiel like, you've been so important to me for these last 4 years, but you deserve more. I don't want to keep faking it. My feelings have just changed. But Diana can tell that he's putting on an act. She says, you don't feel anything right now, do you? He stands up, he says, I love you, I'm sick to my stomach, and Diana says, stop pretending. And Steven's demeanor totally changes. He lets go of that whole pleading boyfriend act. Diana is onto him at this point. She looks him in the eyes and says, there is nothing there. And then Diana says something interesting. You were so desperate to keep me when I was impressive. But as soon as I show even a little weakness, you're out. Steven has this cold look on his face and just says, I guess that's who I am. And he walks out. When Diana said this, I was thinking, wait a minute, are those theories true? Did she lie about the Elsa and everything? Not as much in a way to get away from him, but at least as a test to see what he would do, as a test of his love for her? Because that's what it sounds like. Oh, I finally show a little weakness, and look how you act. Look how you act just on that. She sits down after he leaves, and she sighs a little breath of relief. And I'm thinking at this point, wait a minute. She saw that coming. Something's going on here. This is crazy. We've gotten like 5 different breakups and makeups all in one. Now we're with Wrigley and Drew at the bar. I don't even want to talk about this. I really don't, but they're having a good time. They're laughing together. It's so nice to see. Wrigley offers Drew one of his painkillers that he's been taking for his injury, and Drew is like, oh, I'll just take half for now. Drew asks, how's it going? How is everyone? Wrigley says Steven's been annoying me lately, and Drew replies, oh, he actually helped me a lot last year. And Wrigley just goes, because Wrigley's onto Steven at this point. So Drew asks about how girls are in his life, and Wrigley's like, I've been seeing someone, but I really upset her. And in his drunken stupor, he says, girls really do love it when you call them when you're drunk. And they decide he's going to call Pippa and apologize. It's so cute. And Wrigley doesn't take much convincing. He's always just like, yeah, okay, I'm going to do it. So now Lucy and Leo show up to this holiday party. They're arm in arm. I think Leo's loving this, but Lucy's looking around the room. She is looking to make sure Steven's not there. She is just like nervous, and Leo can tell and asks if she's okay. Oh my gosh, and then we see Evan and Steven walk into the same party, and I was watching this at like 1 a.m. and I was freaking out. Like, Steven is gonna be so pissed. Steven even texts Lucy and says, why aren't you picking up? Oh, and it's this man. I know he's not going to take this or any rejection well. Like, he thinks he can get Lucy just like that. And especially now that he has really ended it with Diana, he says, oh, she'll be fine, when Evan asks. He's got no one else to turn to. That was his thing. He would ping pong between the two of them. Those were the two women in his life. And then they're walking. Steven sees Lucy and Leo across the room. Oh my gosh. This is such a parallel to the finale of season 1, where Lucy saw Steven and Diana coming down the steps. Like, get a taste of your own medicine, Steven. And Steven says to Evan, they're not together. I hooked up with her this morning. Oh, Steven looks terrifying. He's hunched over with this glare as he struts over to them. And Evan's like, no, Steven, this is not a good idea. No. Steven asks to talk to Lucy alone, and she's like, no, I'm here with Leo. Evan again tries to hold it back and says, do not start this with Leo. But Steven's got that sick look in his eye. He doesn't just give up like that. They turn around, they start walking away. But when Evan goes to get some more beers, Steven heads right back in that direction. My heart was pounding. He comes back over to them, he apologizes, tries to shake Leo's hand. Leo's like, I'm good. They get up to leave. Lucy heads up first. She just wants to get out of there. Kind of leaving Leo behind her. Bad idea, because this gives Steven a moment to slip in and talk to Leo. Oh, and Steven says, Leo, just so you know, I hooked up with Lucy this morning. Leo's like, yeah, get out of my face. Obviously not believing him. And Steven just starts explaining in detail what her underwear looked like. See, it came back around. He says, red underwear, lacy white trim. And if that wasn't enough, he just adds, kind of like seasonal. Oh my gosh. He always knows what information to use. And then Steven asks a question that totally pushes Leo over the edge. Basically, it was like, how do I taste? Because he's saying like, oh, she hooked up with me this morning, whatever. He's saying, you were kind of getting my sloppy seconds, whatever, you know what I'm saying? But yeah, that was awful. I could not believe that he said it. I was screaming, and Leo is pushed over the edge. He jumps in and smacks him right to the ground. I was like, no way are we getting the Steven-Leo fight right now. Like, I was waiting for this all season. Ever since Leo admitted to his anger problems and that he beats people up, I was like, it's gonna happen to Steven. It's gonna happen. Leo is punching him relentlessly. I mean, he said once he gets that anger, it just does not stop. It's like he kind of loses control. Steven is not fighting back. He's just laying on the ground, and Leo is going one after another. Lucy sees this, runs, and is like, get off of him. Then she calls Evan over to get him. Also, all the while, we're seeing Wrigley and Drew having so much fun together at the bar. Like, I can't do that right now. I can't. Oh, and I was mad at Lucy at this point, because she's like, get Leo the F off of him. And then as soon as they get him off, she cradles Steven and is like, Steven, oh no! And she yells at Leo and says, what the F is wrong with you? And like, valid. He did just beat him to a pulp. I get it, but I did not want to see Lucy coming to comfort Steven and caring about Steven in that moment. Lucy shouts out for a towel or ice or something, and why does she have to be the one to help him here? Okay, and I just noticed this upon my rewatch. Right at the end, it looks like Steven smiles or smirks a bit. I think he's hearing Lucy coming to his rescue and is pleased with himself. I think he is pleased that he angered Leo and finally got that reaction out of him. Oh, that sick man! But that's what Steven does. He plays on people's insecurities and issues to get it out of them and use it to his own advantage. It's crazy. Crazy scene. And for this all to be happening within like the Christmas holiday backdrop was wild. Did you enjoy this scene? What did you think? Back to Bree. She is still in this house and she's curled up in the bed. I guess she's trying to soak up every last moment of this whole affair. Bree calls Oliver and says she needs to see him in person one last time. So the next thing we see is her showing up at his house. And I'm like, really? You're going to meet up with him right now at his own house? He says MaryAnn's in classes all day, but like, that's still some risky business. And Bree says, I thought about it. I don't need any of that other stuff. I want you. And it's such a common thing that once someone's slipping away, the other person comes back and they lower their standards. They lower those boundaries that they had in the first place just to keep that other person. It's sad to see her do this. Oliver says, I don't want to keep hurting you. And I'm just like, okay, when he was saying earlier that the situation wasn't realistic, we knew that. He literally got Bree to confirm that she would be okay with it in the very beginning to clear his own conscience. Like, he knows that's not a realistic situation. But it would be funny to say she seduces him because she is literally 19 and he is 45. But they start kissing. One thing leads to another, and then we see them laying in bed together. Oliver says, look how stupid you make me. Sir, you are 45 years old. You are a grown man. Do not say this 19-year-old makes you stupid. Oliver goes to shower, and I started getting a weird feeling. I'm getting a finale, funny feeling. Something is about to happen. She sits down at the boudoir and smells his perfume, MaryAnn's perfume. And then we hear a click of the front door. The front door. Who else could it be but MaryAnn coming home right now? My heart starts pounding. Bree starts getting dressed. In the middle of that, MaryAnn walks in, and they're both like, oh my god. And it's so awkward. I was like, what is going on? I was literally like,
an air duct. Oh my god, okay, it's happening. Everybody stay calm. What's the procedure, everyone? What's the procedure? Stay calm. Wait.
MaryAnn is surprisingly calm throughout all of this. She's telling Bree to calm down. MaryAnn herself says, I'm sorry. I'm thinking right now, I understand she's super sympathetic to these girls. Like, we see the care she has for Lucy. But shouldn't she be a little bit more angry? Like, why is she being so nice? And she just says, where is he? Is he in the bathroom, in the shower? So MaryAnn goes in the bathroom. She says to Bree, just give me a second. And closes the door. And Bree is freaking out, trying to pick up everything off the floor. But at the same time, we're not hearing that much from the bathroom. I was expecting screaming and shouting. We're not hearing any of that. The only thing we hear is MaryAnn saying, well, she's upset. So again, she's taking Bree's side in a way and worrying about her more than, like, the fact that she just caught her husband in this affair. They both come out of the bathroom as Bree is frantically putting her shoes on to leave. And MaryAnn says, I'll let the two of you talk. What? Are the theories correct? There were theories about an open marriage situation that MaryAnn knew the whole time? And ding, ding, ding. MaryAnn leaves. Oliver sits Bree down and says, I wasn't entirely honest with you about our marriage. It's an open marriage. Now we're thinking, was MaryAnn so calm because she knew the whole time? Bree asks this. And he reveals that, yes, she did know the entire time. How messed up is that? And then I'm also thinking, why did he have her be this secret? Why were they sneaking around? Why did they just have this incredibly dramatic breakup when it wasn't even that big of a deal. Like the earrings thing, too. And again, Bree asks this very question. Oliver says he thought that it was a part of the fantasy for her. And Bree says that's BS. Was it a fantasy for you? He says no, but I think it was. I think it definitely was for him as well. And then we get one of the best Bree lines of the season where she says, "You don't get to screw me like an adult and then talk to me like I'm a child." And that's so true. And Bree says something interesting that I think exposes how she really feels about this situation. She says, "I never would have agreed if I knew what it actually was. I thought it was something special." And she's essentially saying here that when it was this secret, that's what made her into it. That's what made her think it was something special. She was in on this with just him. That's what created the sense of intimacy. But now she feels like the odd one out when it was really between the two of them the whole time. They knew everything. So yeah, she was buying into that fantasy, and that clearly was a part of it for her, which is kind of a contentious point because it shows it looks bad on Bree. It shows that in a way she preferred it when MaryAnn was the, dumb wife who had no idea what was going on. That's bad. That's very bad. But I think it really asks this question, like, how much of love and intimacy is about secrecy, about sharing secrets with each other and having something that only the two of you know. And it's so weird because doesn't MaryAnn know that Bree's gotta go and tell Lucy about this? Like, that's gonna ruin the whole relationship with Lucy and MaryAnn. Oh, wait, that also means MaryAnn knew Lucy knew the whole time, because Oliver would have said that he knew that Lucy knew. That makes it even weirder. And I mean, it's even more shocking that MaryAnn was so kind to Lucy and had so much sympathy for her, knowing what she knew and that she wasn't doing anything about it. Wow. Ooh, and Bree says, "I think that's the meanest thing someone has ever done to me." And Oliver shoots back saying, "I highly doubt that given your history." It's just like Evan talking about her history again and her upbringing. Wow. This is a point where I'm thinking, I've got to go back and rewatch this whole season because there's so many little moments now that you'll see in a different light. For example, Oliver laughing in the laundry room. Remember that in the last episode? I thought it was just because he was plain old sick and twisted, but now I think it might have been because he knew it wasn't some secret. Like, they made it out to be this big secret, and he's thinking, we didn't even need to hide this at all. My wife already knows. So Bree's storming out of the house. MaryAnn's there. Bree says, "You are a very messed up person." And MaryAnn replies, "Oh, so you prefer when I was just some clueless wife?" Which is true. That is true. And then MaryAnn goes on this speech saying, "I know this feels like the end of the world, but you will get over it." And the way she's giving this advice and seems so sure of it started making me think that something just like this happened to her before and is why she's so calm and has so much sympathy still. Bree reveals that Oliver told her he loves her and is like, "Did you know he said that to me?" MaryAnn gets up and says that means different things to different people. And again, that's another running theme of the show, using "I love you" as this phrase. Like, it can mean different things to different people. And people manipulate that phrase and use it to their own advantage and use it in the ways that they want because it has these myriad meanings. MaryAnn starts tearing up as they talk, and she says, "I know you're trying to hurt me, but that's not going to happen because I've already felt all the things that you're feeling." And I'm just thinking, again, this happened to her. Something like this already happened to her. I don't know if it was with Oliver, before Oliver. Maybe she was the other woman. And then MaryAnn returns the earrings to Bree. Did she purposefully wear them to the class that morning? It was this whole cat and mouse game, as people were predicting. They knew it. People were so good about their theories. Even though MaryAnn says she won't be hurt by it, she wipes away a tear after Bree leaves. Oh, I really want to know more about this. We still don't know what the situation is with Oliver's first wife who died. I wonder if that's related. I kind of like that we still don't know, and there's some kind of mystery around this couple. But yeah, what do you think was going on there? Okay, and Megan Oppenheimer talked about this in her Vanity Fair article as well. She got some inspiration from I May Destroy You, which she says she thinks is one of the best shows ever. And essentially what happens there is the main character thought she was in on something with these two other guys, but then she saw them walk out together and high five and realizes that they were in on this thing together and she was the odd one out. She says, the worst thing about feeling cheated on or lied to is knowing that two other people had a secret that you didn't know about. Bree thinks she has this secret with Oliver. The worst thing that could happen is to realize that she was never actually in on the secret. It was this game that these other two people were playing. And I think that's so fascinating. And again, an important theme in this show is having three people where two have something in common, they know something, and the third person is on the outside. And this dynamic that goes on between three people versus two people. It's so interesting. And you see it throughout the show. You see it in every secret that's told. There's two people that know and one person on the out, especially between the three girls and further on. So then Lucy and Pippa are together and they're talking about how Stephen got beaten up the night before. And that despite Pippa always having wanted to see Stephen get his ass kicked, it sounds scary. Lucy says, Pippa, are we okay? And before we get a chance to hear from Pippa, I'm assuming this is about what Lucy did when she talked about Chris, Bree comes in crying. Oh no. Okay, and then here we get Wrigley waking up in his room. Drew is unresponsive, and we see that he vomited on himself. Wrigley is trying to wake him up, but soon realizes that he is clearly unconscious, and it is... Oh my gosh, it is so hard. I wanted to cry. I was not expecting the show to do this way. I knew Drew was gonna leave somehow, and there were a lot of theories, but I did not see this one coming. Oh my goodness, then we see Stephen walking through campus, and we see what his face looks like after being beaten up last night. It is totally disfigured. He looks terrifying. I don't know what I'm thinking of. I feel like there's a character in literature that has a disfigured face like this. And that's all I could think about was like that classic trope of the villain and the disfigured face and how Stephen's sick inner world and inner mind is showing in the way that his face has been destroyed. At this point, how scary he is and how he behaves is showing in his appearance, how scary he looks. Okay, back to the girls. Bree is talking about this breakup and what she learned. So Lucy now knows and says they're disgusting and they're freaks. And I guess she just came clean to Pippa, which I'm glad about. We need fewer secrets. Oh man, then Pippa gets a call from Wrigley, so she leaves. And then Lucy gets a call from Stephen, probably wanting to talk about what happened to Drew, but she rejects it. Then he keeps calling, as he annoyingly does, and seems to tell her about Drew. The group is all together, and Wrigley is so sad. Wrigley explains here that Drew split one of these pills in half, but they're time-release pills, which he says you can't really do. I didn't know about this, but I guess it causes a very negative reaction. I mean, probably with the drinking as well. I mean, I thought something would happen to Drew away from Wrigley, but for it to be almost a direct effect of Wrigley's actions just makes it all the more devastating. And as he's talking, saying, it's my fault, I gave him pills, I ruined his life, Lucy looks like she's getting increasingly nervous. She is thinking about that letter, and she is feeling guilty. She goes into the kitchen, she breaks down, and Stephen follows her in there to ask if she's okay. She says everything's gone wrong since that letter. And Stephen's trying to calm her down and say, that's not true, that's not true. Again, protecting himself. What a Stephen line. He keeps saying, this isn't your fault, this is not your fault. He loves to say that. Stephen says she can't throw herself under the bus like that, but she replies, I can't keep this secret anymore, you don't understand. And again, we get some Stephen psychology. Lucy's explaining, how can I live with this? How can I live with the guilt of feeling that I ruined his life? And Stephen says, you'll learn to live with it. You'll live with it. I mean, just as he did with Macy. But Lucy says, you really believe that? Stephen says, yes, I know it. So yes, he's thinking about Macy and how he is figuring out how to live with that secret. But then Lucy replies, well, you and I are very different then. I think this is an interesting response to Stephen because Stephen thought that Lucy and him were very similar. He, quote unquote, loves her because they see that bad in each other and they both accept it. So for Lucy to say, we're not the same, like, you can do your awful things and live with it, I am different, I can't live with it, it's not hurtful to him, but I think his whole premise in getting Lucy back in this last episode was that they are similar and they've done these bad things and they can accept each other for it and move on. So what he does next, I think, is partially to fix that, but also a way to clean his own conscience without revealing what he actually did. Okay, this had me gasping. Lucy storms into the room and says, Wrigley, I have to tell you something. Stephen follows right forward and says, it's about me. It's about the letter last year. I wrote the letter. This happened so quickly. He made that decision so quickly. Stephen gives this apology. Oh my gosh, and it's very believable. I don't know if this is Stephen's incredible acting and manipulation or what, or if it's, his conscience coming out about Macy, if this is, again, a way for him to come clean about how he feels about the Macy situation, but not actually doing so. Because I was feeling for him. He says, I'm sorry, I love you, Wrigley. I felt it. Did anyone else feel this? Maybe it's just the emotion of that quick change. And Wrigley just says, okay. I think at this point he doesn't have the energy or the mental capacity to fight or get mad about it. It's already too late at this point, and he is one of his close friends. This whole moment I could not believe. I don't think any of us saw this coming. This is huge. It's the most selfless feeling thing I feel like we've seen Stephen do. I mean, I guess he's still protecting himself again, because if Lucy came clean, then he'd have to tell Stephen that he told Lucy, and that would become a big mess. What do you think here? What were his intentions in a way here? Well, I guess, his intentions was it to win back Lucy? I don't know. What do you think? This is just a huge move he made for her. This is huge. I had never expect him to make such a big move for any girl. And I think for Lucy, who just did something similar for Pippa, who she loves, this is going to be a huge act of love for her. She's going to see this as huge. This has been eating her up inside, and Stephen, like a white knight, just came to save her and took the blame. We've never seen him do this. Right? It was just, I don't know, it blew my mind. But also it made me really upset, because now I'm thinking Lucy is going to fall right back for him, because she's going to see him as this hero at this point. She is going to see a different side of him here. Wow. Oh, it's like this perfect setup. He just got beaten up by this guy, and Lucy came to save him, and now he comes to save Lucy. We see them in, I guess, this bathroom mirror together. Lucy says, I can't believe you did that. And Stephen says, I love you. They kiss, and it's like, wow, we are really right back into this relationship. I can't believe we're back in this relationship. All the steps it took. Oh my gosh, what were your reactions to this? I need to dissect this moment more. Wow. Okay. Teeny time jump to 1 week later. I guess it's right before the break. Diana runs into Pippa while she's getting coffee at the school cafe. It's so somber, and Diana must be feeling a bit guilty too, because she orchestrated Drew coming to campus that night. So who knows where this relationship between them is going to go from now on. But then we see Pippa back in her dorm on her bed. Oh my gosh, another heartbreaking moment. Guess what she plays? She plays that voicemail from Wrigley at the bar that he left. Oh my gosh. And we hear Drew's voice in it too when he said, oh, say I'm sorry. And it's like, you hear how happy they were just, less than 12 hours ago? He's saying, I love you so much, I'm so sorry for what I did, and tomorrow I'm gonna woo you. Oh, it just gives you that horrible feeling that, again, only 12 hours prior, their lives were completely different, and now it has changed. And she replays the message, and I'm wondering, how long has she been sitting there, listening to this over and over again? Oh gosh, now we've got Lucy and MaryAnn. Lucy goes to MaryAnn's office to drop off the papers since she was working for her. They decide that Lucy won't be in any of her classes moving forward, which I'm mad that she lost this relationship. MaryAnn seemed like she was a great mentor for Lucy. She was so helpful. She was someone she could lean on and also learn from, since English is something that she wanted to pursue. I mean, I guess that shows just another way that things got messed up for her in college, and that changed the trajectory of her life, because we see her in a career path that she didn't totally want. She wanted to be a travel writer, not in travel sales. And then MaryAnn says, I was relieved he didn't meet you first. Did we get confirmation that this is a pattern of Oliver's? What do you mean that he didn't meet her first? Like, what is going on? And Lucy walks away and says, pervert freak. I mean, I don't know. I feel like Oliver's messed up. I want to believe the best in MaryAnn just because of how she's treated them. Like, she's been so good to Lucy, but what? Found you first? Would MaryAnn not have stopped it if she knew? What is going on? Oh my gosh, Lucy keeps walking and then she bumps into Evan. Evan asks Lucy, who is this older guy that Bree's been seeing? Lucy says, I'm not going to tell you that, but it's over now. And he's like, seriously? And another callback to their cheating. Lucy says, yeah, it really messed her up. You know, this was all our fault, right? So Lucy is just feeling the blame again for now what Bree went on to do because of Evan breaking up with her. I don't know if that was a good move, Lucy, because Evan feels guilty again now. Oh, okay. Okay. Time for Diana closure. Diana answers. Oh, she is in, I guess, like college advisor office. And I cannot believe all the theories were right. I cannot believe this was completely predicted. The counselor talks about her amazing grades, her phenomenal LSAT score, an admissions essay, and that she's pretty much a shoo-in for Yale. Oh my gosh, everything was a lie. And then we see her calling her bank, talking about the hold on her card, so we know that that was also a ruse. Oh my gosh! I kind of wish that I didn't read the theories about this, because I think it would have hit even harder. But wow. Again, this is another moment where I think I'm going to have to rewatch this season and think about what she was doing and the fact that she planned this all along. And then her dad comes to pick her up in his car, and they're so happy together. And so her dad says, how did Stephen take the breakup? Diana says, oh, he'll be all right. You know, Stephen, I had to make him think it was his idea. And boy, did she do that. That is exactly what everyone was theorizing online. To escape him as a narcissist, she had to make him think it was his idea. She couldn't break up with him. That only feeds his ego in this weird way, because then he would be fighting for her back. He didn't want to be rejected. He had to do it of his own volition. Genius. She opens the window as they drive away, and it's like, free Diana. Free my girl Diana. Well, she's not really my girl. Honestly, she has pissed me off a lot this season, but this was satisfying. If these girls had the Facebook groups we do today, for example, the like, are we dating the same guy Facebook group thing, whoa, they would have to be posting like, be on the lookouts for Stephen, for this man. Okay, here's another fun little reveal at the very end of the season. Evan's in class, putting away his books. They're getting papers back. Guess who his teacher is who's giving him his paper? It's Oliver! And he says, really nice work this semester, Evan. Did Oliver know? I'm not sure if Oliver knew that Bree's ex was Evan, but to think about him having him as a teacher this entire past semester, that was a good little twist. That was a fun little twist. There was nothing too crazy about that. I liked that one. Oh, okay, finally, here's a moment where I smiled and I could feel happy again in the show. The three girls are strutting. Bree's in the front looking so angry. They have baseball bats and they take them to Oliver's car. Bree screams. She spits on his car, and all I can think about is Carrie Underwood before he cheats. And I looked this up. It came out in 2005. So I wonder if that was some inspiration for these ladies, because that's what I was thinking about. Oh gosh. Okay, back to more upsetting times. Evan and Stephen are together. And guess what? Guess what? Evan chooses right now to come clean to Steven. I think he feels guilty again. He wants to get back with Bree. He saw Steven stand up, and now Steven says he's serious again with Lucy. So he wanted this all to come out. But as soon as he starts saying it, that look on Steven's face. Steven doesn't take this well. He steps out to get some air. And I am not surprised. I mean, remember when Diana revealed that she hooked up with Wrigley? He does not take that kind of stuff well. He takes it, I mean, it's not great, obviously, but he takes it extra hard being a narcissist. Like, Evan, come on. And Steven's outside smoking a cigarette, which, have we seen him do that before in the show? Like, he is going through it. And guess who walks by? Guess who walks by? It's Lydia. And I guess this is the perfect setup for their future relationship. Steven approaches her. They start talking. And Lydia says she regrets all of the stuff that she said to Steven. She says you can't believe anything that comes out of Lucy's mouth. That's what she's realized, which, gosh, this has got to be just music to Steven's ears at this point. She apologizes and she's like, Lucy honestly just hates men. Shut up. Oh my gosh, I'm kind of glad that they made her despicable at this point because I don't feel so bad about them getting together. They deserve each other. And they end it with Steven saying, maybe I'll see you around sometime. Because we know they don't live far from each other, so that is possible. Gosh, Steven is so sick. He pulls out his Motorola Razr, comes back into the dorm, pulls such an undercover FBI move. He says, so I'm trying to understand, and essentially has Evan recount what happened. And the whole time, he is recording the conversation. So he has it recorded that Evan is saying, yes, I hooked up with Lucy that night. I cheated on Bree with Lucy. And after he gets that from Evan, he's just like, you know what? We're good. That just shows us he doesn't care about what Evan did. He does not care. It's all about Lucy and how he's going to use this information against her and against others. He is not thinking, oh my God, you're my friend. How could you do this to me? It's how could she do that? Same thing with Diana and Wrigley. Gosh, and poor naive Evan says, oh, you're not going to tell Bree and ruin my life? He says, no, haha, not today. And then Evan hugs him. Are you kidding me? Evan, don't you realize he is a life ruiner? And of course, who walks in now? Lucy. So awkward. But Steven and Lucy kiss, and Steven doesn't hold back. It is like a passionate kiss. Evan sees this, and I'm just like, Evan, don't you see this man is messed up? I mean, again, going back to how Bree felt about being the odd one out, I think here Steven's the odd one out. He didn't know this secret between Evan and Lucy. Okay, we're back in 2015. Lucy and Steven have finished hooking up, and she doesn't look so guilty and regretful as we saw her in the beginning. She looks kind of smug and proud of herself in a way, and Steven's just staring at her. It's again a bit of this cat and mouse game. Lucy got back at him in a way now because now he's cheated on his fiancée, so I think she's happy that she got her own revenge. It now seems to be mere minutes before the wedding starts. Lucy's walking around looking at who's in the room. We see Diana and Pippa all cute together. This has really developed over the season for me. I like this couple, surprisingly. The first episode, I was like, this is crazy. How do we get to that? This is just for shock value. But it makes sense now. And then we see Wrigley across the room looking at them. Clearly, he is still in love with Pippa. Wrigley comes over to talk to Lucy and says, I guess it's probably time for me to let go of that crush that I've been holding on to for a decade. Aww. She asks where Steven is. I guess that's who she was looking around the room for, as she always is. But Wrigley replies that he doesn't know and Evan hasn't heard from him either. You've always got to be scared when you don't have your eyes on Steven. He's like a little toddler. Like, you don't know where he is or what he's doing. You've got to know where he is. Lucy walks past Diana, and she says, kind of scary when you don't know where he is. Oh my gosh. I can't believe even Diana at this point is thinking this too. So then Lucy goes in to check on Bree. Bree is with Pippa. They're having a conversation. I don't know if anyone else thought this. Pippa looks over, sees Lucy, and kind of stops the convo. Just like how, remember, Bree and Lucy stepped outside and talked about Pippa. And then when she came out, it was like, oh, they stopped talking. It seemed awkward. I was like, what are they talking about that they needed to stop saying when Lucy was there? That seemed weird. I don't know. Did you think so? Oh, and Bree says, I just want everything to be perfect. And Lucy comforts her, saying, it will be. Bree goes to take one final look in the mirror, and her phone dings. Everyone needs to block Steven. Steven has sent her an audio file. Wow, you know what I'm thinking too? Kind of revenge for when Lucy sent the audio file of his voicemail to his little sister. Whoa. Gosh, I was screaming because we all know what this audio file is. And for him to have held onto this for so many years from his Motorola freaking Razor and plan this perfectly timed to right before she walks down the aisle, it's unreal. Oh my gosh, and she's listening to this as Lucy is right there across the room. And as the message ends, Lucy comes up behind her and says, you ready? And it's another one of those moments that I think the show does so well where we know what's happening and one character does, but another doesn't. I mean, going along with that secrecy and being the third person out, it's like we're in on the secret with, for example, Bree, and Lucy's the odd one out. It's fascinating, and what a way to end this season. I mean, it's such a clear setup for a third season. It is such a clear setup. The actress who plays Bree's cover of Mr. Brightside comes on, and apparently, too, the orchestral band, or like violins that were playing just earlier in that wedding scene as they're waiting, was Mr. Brightside, tying this back to the end of last season. Can anyone else not, like, breathe after finishing this episode? I could not sleep. What did you think of this finale? Did it satisfy you? Are there things you wanted to know? I think it was pretty satisfying. It answered most of my questions. I mean, there are a few things that we didn't get tied up. For example, I'm still so interested in what MaryAnn's book was about. I thought that was going to come into play more. I really think I'll need to rewatch this season because I am still thinking about that conversation Diana had with her mom. I really thought that was going to be a huge setup for why she would stay with Steven, but clearly she was planning for a very long time to leave him. It was kind of scary how well Diana could act. Like, I need to watch this all again. I mean, it's scary how well everyone in this show can lie. Like Lucy about Chris. It's interesting. So I think looking forward, I'll be interested to see what happens when Steven figures out that Diana was lying. We'll also have to see the consequences of Lucy's lie, which the writer said will need to have consequences. Throughout this whole show, I am always thinking transfer. Everyone needs to transfer. Everyone needs to leave this college and go your separate ways. Please. Did you like season 2 better, less than, just as much as season 1? I have a soft spot for season 1, I think, just because it was so real. Like, season 2 was great and entertaining. It did have a lot of twists and turns, which makes it feel a little bit less relatable in a way. Season 1 felt like relatable. Ooh, and then another thing I wanted to talk about or mention before we end this episode is another quote from the writer in one of these interviews. She said, "One of the main reasons that I wanted to do the show in the first place is to debunk this myth that only weak or stupid women get tricked by narcissists and bad people, that only silly women get run over by love. It happens to the strongest of us. Some of the most incredible women I know, their one weak spot is a man or relationships. There's something so vulnerable about that. I don't know what it is about wanting to be loved that makes us forget ourselves." I really liked that quote, and it's something that I think about throughout the show. I mean, going back to Diana, we see that she is able to smarten up to it and get out of it, but it does take her a while. What do you think about that? Okay, I think those are all the things I wanted to talk about today. I want to make sure that I can get this uploaded ASAP. But again, I want to say thank you so much for listening. Please let me know if I should go back and record for episodes 3 and 4. And also, I know for episodes 1 and 2, I added a visual component. So if you'd like to see me go back and do that for the rest of the episodes, I would love to. Just let me know in the comments below. Let's discuss, let's talk, and I will talk to you soon. Bye. Psst. If you're still listening right now, comment poussoir. Bye.